She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are...
the Book Besties. Strap in, this is going to be a long one.
Wibbly, wobbly, timey, wimey.
A lot of times these orphans are not just finding new families that love them and take care of them. They put them in closets under the stairs.
Oh, shocker! An orphan's a chosen one.
He didn't impregnate anybody that we know of, so first vampire that hasn't happened.
Again, writers are weird.
Molly, we're 30 minutes in and we've talked about nothing!
I seriously almost forgot our intro. That's the week we've had!
I think it wouldn't be the first time that we were like, oh, damn it, let's go back and do that again. The people don't need to know that.
Rewind! Though. No, it's alright. I'm always forgetting things.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good.
I'm always forgetting things. So, it's been a week, lady. How's it going there?
Things are not great at the moment. Everything's fine with Tom and with the boys and all that. I'm just having a really hard time adjusting to my new job, and yeah,
that's hard.
It was a hard week.
I'm sorry,
but you know, we bounce back, right?
Right.
I think this has been one of my hardest years teaching, and I think that's been like the consensus of most of my coworkers and most of the people in the world of education. Kids this year just have forgotten how to do school because
they're forgetting how to kid.
Yeah, they don't know how to school.
Right.
They haven't been in school for so long that like they forgot how to do it.
Right.
And then we had a parent-teacher conference with my oldest son's teachers this week because I've talked about this before, but he's on the autism spectrum, and his issues are not educational, they're behavioral.
Right.
But the behavior issues have he forgot how to school too.
He forgot to go to school. I mean,
yeah. So it was kind of a hard week. We are looking at moving him back from a 504 to an IEP, which we tried to do last year, but last year they were saying it wasn't affecting his education. Like his autism wasn't affecting his education. And
but
this year both of his
feel like it is. Yeah,
both his teachers this year are like, no, he would much more benefit from an IEP. Like he definitely needs a plan that's more than just this accommodations. Like he needs goals. Mm-hmm. So we're trying again.
I mean, I have a friend who's an elementary school teacher, and she said a kindergartner went missing this week because they just took off to go to the bathroom, because that's what you do at home is you get up and you go pee. But she went missing in the school because
oh no,
she didn't know where the bathroom was. She ended up in the 5th grade hall, which
they don't have bathrooms in their classrooms in kindergarten?
No, they're like pods. So they're set up like the pods are set up in a U shape, and then the building's set up in a U shape. So there's There's 2 major halls. And 5th grade is at the top of this hall, and the kindergarten's at the bottom of this hall. Somehow she went from here, walked past several bathrooms over to
yeah, well, she's 5, so I guess that's okay. It's not okay that my 8th graders lose their way on the to the bathroom.
I mean, I forget why I go to the bathroom sometimes, but that's because I have a memory lapse.
To pee. Like, the reason to go to the bathroom is never not to pee.
I will walk into the bedroom and just be like, why did I come in here?
Okay, that's different. If you forget why you went to the bathroom, it's a whole other...
I walked through my bedroom to get to my bathroom.
Oh, okay, well, I see the dilemma.
Yeah. Also, ADHD, so, brain. Let's see. This week we started homeschooling back up.
Yeah. So, you need to tell everybody what your first day activity was, because I was like, yes.
So, Liv, for her birthday, shout out to Matt's youngest brother, Joseph. Whenever the girls say they want something for their birthday, Uncle Joseph goes big. He does not do, like, if Piper said she wanted a guitar, he would buy her the best guitar for her age group. Like, Livy said, I want to...
That's the difference between being the uncle and the parent.
Yes. And, I mean, when you don't have children, you have monies. So, Livy said she wanted a skateboard. And what came in the mail? A skateboard suitable for a child who has been skating for a very long time. So we went over, after a few days of her riding around in the neighborhood and practicing at our park in our neighborhood, I took her over to the skate park. And by the end, she was trying the big, like, ramp. She bit it hard and cried because her ego was bruised. But on the way back, through her tears, she has to go back. So,
well, there you go.
I'd say it's a W.
There you go.
I mean, they did the other things too. They did the maths and the sciences.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like kind of the beauty of homeschool, right? That you could take them to the skate park and they could actually do all the things there, with just the skate park. But
and there was no peoples there, and being that we have a immunocompromised home, it's good to not be near the peoples. There was a guy our age skating there, which was. I forgot that. I mean, our generation is like the major generation that made it big, right?
Right.
So, like, they were the skater boys.
Right.
So I'm not surprised. And he was helping the youngins that were there. There was another kid that was homeschooling that was there, and he was pointing stuff out to him too. So he was helping them with tricks and crap, but still weird. We're almost 40. Maybe not skate midweek. Yeah,
I think it's time to hang up your
skateboard.
You're all done, man. And if you do plan on skateboarding still, I recommend bubble wrap full body.
Yeah, I mean, or you know what? Good for you, man. Just live your life. But I'm not doing it. I'm broken enough.
Yeah,
so,
not for me.
Third book in spooky season.
Yeah. We've got The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Look at that gold foil on there. I know.
And the artwork in here is gorgeous.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that, and I know that's in your discussion question, so I'll hold on to that. But this book won the Newbery, which for those of you who do not know what the Newbery is, this is one of the highest honors given in the literary world.
Oh,
it is the highest honor for chapter books given every year. ALA sponsors it, which is American Library Association, and the John Newbery Medal is for the most distinguished contribution to American literature for children.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Yeah, you don't just win the Newbery for junk.
I mean,
and he won it in 2009.
Neil Gaiman himself is a big deal.
For sure.
He's directed things like Doctor Who. He's written for Doctor Who. He's written for movies. He's directed. He's done a lot of things. He's a producer on a bunch of crap. His IMDb page is like the length of my arm. It's amazing.
I feel like he has like the same sort of following as like Tim Burton. Yeah. Like he has a very specific genre, and it's always kind of like weird. But
I want him to take me under his wing. Like, if anybody can teach longevity in writing, it's him. We don't write the same crap, but I want the longevity this man has.
I mean, I could see that, but I'm also sort of like, I really don't want him to because I think he's weird. But I mean,
I'm weird. Again, writers are weird.
It's true. But I have read 2 books by him. This was the second. They were both weird. I liked this one better than the other one. Coraline?
Oh, yeah.
I liked this one better. Book. Right. I liked this one better. I read Coraline for my children's lit class, actually. I took children's lit as an undergrad and grad school student, and same with YA lit. That's the beauty of being an English major and a librarian.
Yes.
Who wants to be a children's librarian. You get to take like fun classes that other people are taking for an English credit, but you're like, I'm going to teach this.
I get to take all of them.
All of them.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I read Coraline for that. And I actually think that was like the summer that you and I met.
Yeah.
That I read it. But this one I liked better than Coraline. So.
Okay. This book we're covering today starts with a man murdering his family. Along the story.
Well, not his family, but murdering a family.
Murdering a family.
Right.
Correction. Asterisk. Along the story, we meet ghouls, ghosts, vampires, and werewolves. All of this is a young adult book. This is intended for 10 and up.
Right.
So let's jump into my synopsis, and then we'll get talking, huh?
Oh, but before you do, just a reminder to our listeners that we are in Spooky Month, like Molly said, and correct. We are reading 4 books for the month of October that have like a spooky vibe to them. And our first one was Frankenstein, which is classic horror, the birth of sci-fi.
It's really good. That was a good episode, and the fans.
It was a good episode, but I didn't like the book.
I don't think. You know who does like the book? Nurse Katie.
Nurse Katie told us she liked the book. Oh.
Which April and I had a really good laugh about because
we did.
We love you, Katie.
Yeah, we do. And the second one was Mexican Gothic, which is what we did last week,
which will be going live on Tuesday.
Well, when this premieres, it will have premiere. The Mexican Gothic will have been a week before.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. And then this one's the Graveyard Book, and next week we will do the Bone Garden.
What?
So now synopsis.
Molly. Synopsis. A baby wanders into a graveyard during the gruesome murder of his family. He is adopted by ghosts and named Nobody. Bod for short. A plethora of supernatural creatures help care for him as he grows in the graveyard. And we follow his journey as he becomes, comes of age. It's a coming of age book. And it jumps through time, right? We don't see his whole life. We see snippets via chapters. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
First things first. Is this spooky?
I thought so. It definitely has a spooky vibe. I mean, it takes place in a graveyard. There's a lot of supernatural things. So, like, in my library, we're genreified, and I have a section that's horror. And this book would not be in horror. This section would be in my This book would be in my supernatural section.
That would definitely be the genre I'd put it in.
Yeah,
but
it's much more
supernatural, right?
Well, no, because this starts with age 10. So this is actually considered a juvenile chapter book.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a juvenile chapter book. YA tends to start, well, the genre used to start at 13, but it's progressively become much more, I don't know the word I want to use right now, but there's a lot more intensity of language and sex. Like, and so really now YA doesn't really start till age 15. Okay. So this would do well in an elementary school or a middle school.
I felt the verbiage was really mature for starting at 10. Like, I think there was a lot of language in here and words in here that I normally wouldn't read in like a 10-year-old's book. The linguistics of it, or is it just me being weird?
There might have been some that really pushed a reader. Like, so I have an 8-year-old who will be 9 this school year, and his reading level is about a 4th grade reading level, even though he's a 3rd grader. I would say this is more of a 4th, 5th grade, but I don't think he would be ready for it as a 3rd grader, even though he's on a 4th grade reading level. Because of comprehension. Yeah, I think it would be better 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Middle grade. Right. It's labeled a juvenile fiction book.
But you start 5th grade?
Yeah. Middle grade has like really had a rising in the past really 5 years where there are really big middle grade books that have come out. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that YA has been pushed to more grittier grounds. So it's like more mature now. And so there's more middle grade that's being released.
I actually had a conversation in school about this. One of my last classes last year, they talked about how middle grade is going to be the new YA. YA was huge a few years ago. Yeah. And it had all those movies that came out of books. And middle grade is going to be that new standing ground. And if you could write in there and because editors are seeking these books out, right? Right. Like, because people have middle grades on their queries for days. So if you write middle grade, like, you are going to be squared away.
I think we can partially owe credit to that to Harry Potter. Yep. But I would also say, like, Percy Jackson and the book Wonder, which is a fantastic book. We should really cover that on the pod. Those. That's a fantastic middle grade book. So yeah, I would say like
A Dog's Purpose. My kids love that series.
Oh yeah. So Rick Riordan actually sponsors, it's called Rick Riordan Presents, and it's a new middle grade imprint. And it's several different series of books that are all fantasy, like in the vein of Rick Riordan, but they all feature characters who are people of color, and all of the authors are people of color. So it's a really amazing. Cool. I love that. Yeah, I love it too. I just kind of wish we didn't have to stick a white guy's name on it to get it published. Like that bothers me. I'm not a fan of that.
It gives you the X.
But I'm really glad that Rick Riordan is trying to change the world of publishing to say, hey, there are authors of color who are not being recognized, and I want to change that. So middle grade is hot right now. It really is. YA is becoming so much more gritty that it's becoming more adult.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
So, whoo, that was a tangent we went on.
That was, we went way out to left field. Anyways, and we haven't even started talking about this book yet.
And that is April and Molly's take on book theory. So, I agree with all that. I would say that this is spooky children's age. Like, yeah. I would say I enjoyed this. I found it humorous. I found it fun. I didn't think it was scary by any means.
Yeah, I didn't either. And if I have a student that's looking for like horror, I'm going to direct them to more like R.L. Stein.
Yes.
Like of this
Goosebumps.
age. Like this. Goosebumps. Right. I'm going to do that.
And
this is more.
Put those on here. Next year. Next October.
Next year.
Next year.
But I feel like this is one that like if my kids like ghost stories or whatever, if they want something supernatural, this is a really good one. And here's the difference between this and like a horror movie. Yeah, it has that book. It definitely has that spooky vibe, but like there's only one bad guy, and he's not the supernatural characters. Well, I guess there's more than one bad guy.
There's a couple
spoilers, but
this book has been out for several years.
Right.
Spoilers be damned.
The bad people in this are people and not these supernatural creatures. So
the ghouls are bad.
I mean, I don't know that they're really bad. That's just how they're
bad. They were going to eat him. They were going to eat him. The whole reason they
didn't.
They were planning on it. The whole reason they baby napped him. Okay. We'll get to the ghouls. We'll get to the ghouls. So I didn't realize this was your second Gaiman book. This is your second attempt at Gaiman, what do you think of his writing style? Because I feel it's authentic and original.
It's definitely his unique style. I think I texted you this pretty early on in the book. I really struggled with the first few chapters of this because they're written almost in second person, but they're not written in second person. They're also third person. Like the tenses are changing.
Yeah, it changes all the time.
Yeah,
the point of view
is very confusing. Yeah, and the POV changes and the tense and it
almost has a tempo to it the way he writes.
Yeah, there's definitely Poe vibes. I get that with this one as well. There's a reason why he doesn't name Jack, like specifically Jack, and keeps calling him the man Jack, because Jack is a part of an organization. But you don't.
He's a Jack of a Jack.
But you don't know that until the end of the book. So at the beginning of the book, I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't understand why we're going back and forth. And that to me would have made it difficult to access it as a younger reader.
Right.
Because I was struggling to try to figure out where the F it was going. But like I definitely enjoyed this one better than Coraline. I think because I like Coraline.
But I
think I liked Bod better. Like, I just liked his character. I liked him as a person.
Coraline, I've seen the movie, and that movie bugs me. It gets under my skin, and I can't pinpoint why. I don't know. It feels morbid.
I mean, it is. It's like a dead girl, so.
Right. But I don't know. There's something, I don't know. It's playing with death. I don't like it. But, so my first reading of Gaiman stuff was actually in middle school, but I read Good Omens in middle school.
You read Good Omens in middle school?
It took this dyslexic girl forever.
I can't even imagine wanting to read Good Omens in middle school.
But so what stuck out then, it's not just him in Good Omens. Okay, so I actually have it right here. It's Neil Gaiman and Terry, I'm going to say his name wrong. Terry Pratchett. They wrote this together, okay?
Right. And Terry Pratchett is pretty classic in that sci-fi supernatural genre as well. He has a huge following.
So Gaiman has this, it feels patchy, right? Like he's writing paragraphs in different times and then putting them together. And Pratchett kind of writes that same way. So they piece together. And that's how this felt. Like he was piecing the story together slowly. And for someone that's dyslexic and ADHD, it helps you follow the tempo. Like if there's, I'm going to keep saying tempo. Tempo.
Sorry.
But I just feel like there's a beat to the book. And I think that's how it kept me enthralled. I like his style. I can't write like that. I have a linear thought process, but I can see how he does not. Right. I could see his office where there's like note cards and like lines connecting, he's got string connecting one note card to another. And what's that meme where the guy's got a cigarette and he's like on a conspiracy theory board and he's like,
yeah, I totally know what you mean. I mean, I read Coraline because I had to read it for my class. It's not one I would have picked up otherwise. I know, just a bit of a spoiler for our listeners, we are going to be reading Good Omens in next year sometime. So I'm excited to do that because I really liked the series. But like Neil Gaiman he's not really my cup of tea. Like, he's not somebody that I'm going to pick up. Like, I know he has a really big following in the graphic novel world too, and like, again, I don't really like graphic novels, so that's not for me either. But he's just not really my cup of tea. Now, I did enjoy this book, but he's not somebody that I'm like reading regularly.
I like weird. And I think that's what attracts me to Gaiman and his style is weird, right? So.
Well, besides Twilight, I don't really read supernatural books. Like, I don't really do that.
You don't do vampires and witches and the occult in any way?
No, I don't. And really, besides Twilight, I don't really watch the movies for that either. Right. Now, Doctor Who kind of walks that line of sci-fi and supernatural and all these different genres.
Doctor Who has episodes that are horror. Doctor Who has episodes that are supernatural. Doctor Who has episodes that are sci-fi.
Love stories.
Love stories. Or they're wacky ones. There's comedy episodes. Like, he literally... Spoiler alert, there's an episode where there are fucking dinosaurs on a spaceship. Dinosaurs in space is literally
not a spoiler alert for me because I have seen that episode.
And that is one of my favorite episodes, BT Dub. Anyways, moving on. Back to Neil Gaiman. We will finish this book, I swear to God, folks.
Man, we are really off the rails today.
It has been a weird week for us, so I'm going to take it. I'm sorry, besties. You know what? No, I'm not sorry.
You've strap in. This is going to be a long one.
You've signed up for this. Let's move on. Okay. So I listened to the full cast audiobook. But you read the physical hard copy, right?
Well, actually, this is the first time I've ever read a book this way. I both read the book and listened to the audiobook. So I was running out of time to record this episode, and I needed to be able to read when I couldn't read, like when I'm showering and getting ready and, driving and those things that like you have to do, but I'd rather be reading.
The grown-up things? Yeah.
The
adult
right.
things.
So I've never done that before, and it was really only for like the last maybe third of the book. The full cast was really cool, and definitely since this is technically a children's book, like I love that they did the full cast.
I'll put the IMDb link to the full cast list because there's a lot of names everyone knows on there. Yeah.
It was good, but I did read the physical book and was happy to do that because there are illustrations in it. Like, if you're on YouTube, here's an example.
I was going to pull up the interlude because I found that interesting. So what did you think of the artwork?
I think the artwork complements the book. I don't know that it...
The artwork is by David McKean.
Here's the interlude, the one Molly was talking about.
So pretty.
So I think it complements the book, but I don't think it does anything to push the story forward. And I was bothered by the fact, I'm going to show a picture that's towards the end here. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to show a picture that's towards the end for those of you who are watching on YouTube. The YouTube. I'm trying to find the picture of there we go. This is the picture of
I was just pulling that up.
This is the picture of the, what are they called again?
The thing in the
sleer.
The sleer.
The sleer. Yeah. So we've got the 3-headed sleer here. And to me, this doesn't do any justice to the way
it was described.
That it was described. I mean, the description is like horrifying. Like, I would 100% be afraid of that. And then this is the picture, which to me just looks sort of like...
But it also then shows that this is catered towards children, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So...
Actually, I have to say, side note, that part where the sleer get Jack, I was listening to the audiobook, and the echoing of the sleer in my car, I had goosebumps. I was like, damn, this is really good.
I audibly gasped.
This is so good.
I audibly gasped. I'm like,
yeah, it was good. It was good.
I think if I picked this up at 10 or 11, and this had the artwork and all this, I would dig it. I would be all about it because
I feel like
really think it would really help the process for a kid, you know?
Yes. I feel like at 10, you need the artwork. Here's another one. This is Bod. As he's older. So at 10, you need the artwork. At 12, it doesn't do anything for me. But I mean, okay, this is the very first page of the novel, and it's a knife. I mean it's setting you up for this book is going to be...
Okay, I want to talk about that for a second.
It's going to be something.
Before we, I don't know if I have a note on it, but let's talk about that for a second. We're literally starting this book with a mass murder.
With a murder.
A mass murder. He kills the mom, the dad, the sister.
Right.
And then he's there to kill...
And kills to kill the baby.
Right. And which we learn later in the book, he's there to kill Bod, right?
Right.
Bod is supposed to be the end of the Jacks.
Bod is the chosen one.
Oh, shocker! An orphan's a chosen one. Which we're gonna get into the orphan.
What a surprise!
We're gonna get into the orphan conversation later. However,
okay.
I've never seen hold on, my fucking things.
My notes literally say Bod is the chosen one! Exclamation point.
Sorry, my hair was bothering me. I find it interesting that a children's book starts with such a graphic description of a murder.
Definitely. I feel like that description sets this book up to be a lot scarier than what it ended up being.
But it sets the tone, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
It sets the tone. You know, and you know what? That's realistic, though. Kids see all the time on the news. They're sitting at home watching the news with mom right before dinner starts, and it talks about people dying. They've heard of death. They know what death is.
Today, my 5-year-old told me what you do in a lockdown drill.
Yeah,
so they know.
I had Piper. I'm gonna go on a tangent real quick. 3rd grade Piper one day came home after a lockdown drill from PAR, and she's crying. And I go, babe, what's wrong? And she goes, I was in the hall during lockdown. I was supposed to be going to the bathroom, and I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I walked my 3rd grader and my kindergartner into our half bath and showed them how to stand on a toilet and crouch so that they wouldn't be seen if a shooter came into the school.
Well, the teachers are also supposed to completely disregard our own safety to make sure that all of the kids are out of the hallway.
Right.
Which I would definitely do that. I'm not
right.
I'm not saying that, but it's not fun to have that conversation with your little ones.
I feel like a piece of their innocence is gone when we have to have these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And I think...
I feel like that about a lot of things, though. Every year I have to talk to my boys about safe touch and not safe touch for Cub Scouts. And every year I think to myself, I hate that I have to do this with them.
But it's our life.
It's our life.
But I think Neil Gaiman is putting a foot in the real world starting that way. You know what I mean? That is a realistic thing. Right. There are bad guys all the time that try to kill people.
I mean, listen, if you're a younger viewer, what Molly said might be true, but they don't often try to go kill babies. So this would be horrific no matter what. Like, people would not have liked that this happened.
I mean, they tried to kill it. I mean, he who must not be named tried killing Harry Potter as a baby too. Anyways. Oh my gosh. Moving on!
Molly, we're 30 minutes in and we've talked about nothing. Good gracious.
No, we've talked about all the things. Okay. Question 4. Bod seems to have several unlikely friends throughout the book. The little girl who he takes to the crypt below ground and the ghosts of a convicted witch. Why do you think Gaiman did this? Was there one unlikely friend you liked the most?
So my favorite of his friends was the witch. And her name escapes me right now, but I really liked the witch. I thought it was really cool that he chose to befriend her, even though
he was told not to go over that.
He was told not to go there. That place was, unconsecrated ground, and like it was a scary place and a dangerous place, and yeah, we should not go there. However, that's not Bod's way. He tried to
what a sweet kid.
He really is.
He tried to he went and stole from the underground crypt to frickin' try to get her a headstone and
yeah.
Sweet kid.
Well, so he goes to try to peek in on the unconsecrated ground, and he ends up falling and hurting his leg. I think maybe possibly even breaking it, and the witch heals him, right?
Right.
So he risks his life to leave the graveyard, which he's not supposed to do because the Jacks still want him.
Right.
So he risks his life to leave the graveyard so he can pawn something that he steals from the Sleer, so that he could buy her a gravestone because she's never had one. He ends up getting trapped because the adults in this book are
Elizabeth
all horrible.
Was her name.
Elizabeth, thank you. And so he gets trapped because the adults in this book are all horrible. And then she actually comes and still helps him escape from that. And to me, here's the gravestone for those of you who are watching online. This is the gravestone he ends up making for her. It's literally just a rock. And it says, EH, we don't forget. And because that's the only thing she wanted on there was her name because she couldn't read anyway. But I liked their friendship. She ends up being around him for basically all of the book from that point forward. Well, she's even there in the big fight scene at the end. So, yeah, she was my favorite.
She helps him figure out how phasing, right? His lessons, they're trying to teach him how to phase. They're trying to teach him how to be invisible.
Right. And when he goes to school, she actually is the one that puts the spell on him that makes it so he's not, he's sort of like the silence.
Yes.
He's only you only know he's there when you're looking at him, and then you promptly forget about him. So he's like the silence from Doctor Who, and the witch does that to him.
I really liked his storyline with Scarlet. I was really sad when she left in the beginning. Right? It was nice for him to have another human child, and her mom thought he was an invisible friend, and then she came back, and then he was gone again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then Silas had to erase her memory. That broke my heart.
I'm glad Scarlet became a character at the end, too, since she was so important at the beginning to his life. I'm glad that she came back.
Me too.
I thought that was a good tie-in. Immediately when she came back, I was like, oh, this is going to be his downfall. I knew it would either be because she drew him off out of the graveyard in a more permanent capacity, or something happens. Well, I didn't trust the what was his name? Snow guy, or it was something wintery.
Mr. Frost.
Mr. Frost. I didn't trust him from jump, but I knew she'd be his downfall. I kind of wondered if it would be that he fell in love with her and they left together, and that's how he got attacked. But
At first, I thought Mr. Frost was Silas, and then, like, the more they started describing him, like, oh, that's not Silas. That's not Silas. Silas is the...
Well, when the second that Bod is, like, trapped in what was his room, his nursery as a baby with Mr. Frost, and he says that the person who tried to kill his family had black hair, and they've spent all this time describing the fact that Mr. Frost has, like, white hair now because he's older. I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. This is where he's going to find out that this is the bad guy.
Right.
So, and like I said, I knew Scarlet was going to be the reason that happened to him, because Scarlet was the only person that he interacted with that would have that would be compelling enough to drag him out of the graveyard.
Right. Because he had that long-term connection.
Well, and she was the only one that didn't know why he really needed to be there and be protected.
Right. She was just as innocent as he was.
Right.
So that leads me into my next question. Bod's human interactions are limited to a short-lived friendship with Scarlet, a brief stint in school, the guy at the pawn shop, and the dance. Do you think these experiences molded him?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The dance one, I don't know. I feel like that scene was completely unnecessary.
Oh, I loved
weird. It was so weird.
The audiobook did it beautifully.
I mean, was I listening to it or was I reading it at that point? Now I can't even remember. But to me, that was unnecessary. I think that was included because maybe I'm wrong about this and maybe you would know better than me, but isn't that like an actual, like, not tall tale. What's the tale? Whatever.
Myth?
It's a myth. Yeah, it's a myth.
The Dance Macabre? Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think it's a German myth even. Right,
let me look it up. I don't know.
So anyway, so I can see that inclusion was just because it was a myth, and so then it was a good tie-in, but to me that was unnecessary. But I think what really shaped him was the interaction with the person in the pawn shop, just to see that, like, even the people who aren't trying to murder you are not good people. Like, and the people at school were also not good people. The only person that he interacted with that wasn't an evil person was Scarlet.
Right. So it is a French lore.
French.
Danse Macabre. It's spelled with an S in that, not dance. Oh, yeah.
That's how it's actually spelled in the book too.
It's also called the Dance of Death. It's an artistic genre of allegory from the late Middle Ages, and it's just to talk about death, pretty much. It's just a lot of artwork and music. So
it's spelled with an S in the physical book as well.
But it is French.
Here's another great picture of Bod. That's at the Dance Macabre.
So since we're talking about that, you didn't like that chapter.
No, I thought it was pointless.
So what did you think of the lady on the horse talking to everyone? What do you think the symbolism in her is?
Okay, so I think the lady on the horse is the person that, like, helps people into their death. Not like the Grim Reaper. I think she's the person that sort of, like, accompanies you into the afterlife. Like, here, get on my horse and I shall take you to the afterlife.
What's that song? That was a song, right?
Molly, you are all over the place today.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I'm going to put it in I know what I'm talking about. It was like when all that, like, big band music was really popular in the 90s.
Oh, I'm gonna quote Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec. I thought we all agreed to forget when swing was big in the 90s.
Anyways, I will put that song also in the comments because everybody needs to know what song is stuck in my head now.
Yeah, and also because apparently we're really bad at our job, and most of the time we just go, we'll just put it in the notes.
We'll put it in the notes. But we obviously bring up things we don't plan on talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Was I planning on talking about this song from the 90s when we all...
Who knows? Molly has ADHD.
It's like puppies running around with an open paint can. It's fine.
Yeah, I thought it was pointless. I loved it.
It was one of my favorite chapters.
Yeah, I don't get it. But an interesting thing happened in that chapter, and I might be derailing where you're planning on going with your questions because I know you're going to ask about him.
Yeah, go ahead.
Molly and I were having like a lot of discussions about what Silas is.
Okay.
And I won't dive all the way into that yet. I'll give you the chance to ask it, but he does mention that the dance is only for the living and for the dead, and he is not either.
Right.
So that's a really big clue to what he is.
You can feel how sad Silas is that he doesn't get to participate.
But it seems so pointless. The ghosts spend all day preparing for it. They're humans
super
are like
excited, and they won't tell Bod shit about it.
And the humans are like, we have to do this, but we don't know why we have to do this. It's just a tradition, but why are we doing this tradition? And they're all very confused. And then they all basically dance together in the middle of town, and then the humans completely forget it.
They take
the ghosts,
white flowers that like give them a drug effect, and
right. The ghosts remember it, but say that they don't. Like, it was pointless, dumb.
It was,
and if basically if it's the dance of death, why did they all live?
Beautiful symbolism.
There was no symbolism. They did not die, and this was not like the dance that ushered them to death. It was pointless.
It's like fuck, I'm gonna forget it. It's the holiday they celebrate in Mexico when they remember the dead.
Yeah, Day of the Dead.
The Day of the Dead, right? It has a really fancy name. I can't say it because
it's in Spanish. It's
God bless America, but.
I can't remember how to say it either because I don't know.
It's beautiful symbolism because it shows the two different sides of Bod's life, right? Bod lives with the dead, but he wants to be living. He is living. So it's showing this like beautiful symbolism of the two parts of Bod's life.
All right, so the Day of the Dead is Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, those words.
And that's the Day of the Dead. Okay, so I can see your point, but I do not concede. I still think it was pointless.
So let's move on to Silas, and then we'll get on to my next question.
And I do feel like there was a lot of in this book that could have been left out because we have weird chunks of his life, and I would have liked more chunks of his life than this fucking dance. Okay, so
I feel like this dance was showing him a life he missed out on. There was like a mom and a baby and kids.
He didn't need to see that. He knew what life he was missing out on. He knew.
We'll agree to disagree. Moving on.
Okay, fine.
So, it's never directly said till the end.
It's never directly said.
It's never directly said. What do you think Silas is?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you my end conclusion, and then I'm going to tell you how I got there. So, first of all, you sent me a link about this book being banned. It was actually the graphic novel version of this book that was banned, and we just finished banned.
Insane.
Well, we just finished Banned Books Month, so thought that was interesting. But the graphic novel cover has Silas like wrapping his cape around Bod, and he's very clearly a vampire. However, I for most of this book felt like Silas was a guardian angel. Okay. They mention what was her name? I have it in my notes. Miss Lepescu is.
Oh, I love Miss Lepescu.
She's great. So she turns into a dog, and she refers to herself. She refers to herself as the Hound of God. And so, yes, she's a werewolf, but my thought was if she's a Hound of God, and then they talk about the Honor Guard, and and Silas is a part of the Honor Guard, so I thought that doesn't mean that he couldn't be a guardian angel. He's watching over Bod. He's been with him the whole time. I 100% believe that angels are real and that sometimes they're here on Earth in human form.
And stuck as vampires?
No. Silas was choosing to take care of Bod, and to me, a vampire would just
he definitely neglected his duties at part of the guard, right? To take care of Bod.
Right. But then the confirmation that he is a vampire. Here's why I believe fully he's a vampire. Besides the fact that on the cover of the graphic novel, he's very clearly a vampire. There's two reasons.
The whole thing, right?
Yeah. There's two reasons. Well, and he didn't impregnate anybody that we know of. So, first vampire that hasn't happened with.
Maybe Scarlet. Right. We don't know.
Oh, Lord, I hope not. She's a child.
She's a teen at the end of this.
Still a child, Molly. Still a child.
Bella's a teenager.
She's an adult when they get married. Oh my gosh, I can't have this conversation. All right, so so the reason why definitively he is a vampire, even though it really did take me the whole book to buy into that, there's two reasons. When he gets hit by the police car, because Bod gets arrested and he's trying to save him, he is flying like a bat.
Yes.
All right, so that's the first one that I'm like, I literally put in my notes, oh, so he's a bat, so definitely, this is what my notes say. Silas can also fly, still could be an angel, but possibly a vampire, described as a vat. Then my next one, oh, Silas can't see his reflection, definitely a vampire. Yeah.
That really seals the deal.
But it's not until page 239 that I really was like, okay, yeah, he's a vampire. And I guess for a book like this, which is supernatural, the genre makes more sense that he would be a vampire instead of being a guardian angel. But so on 239, there's a room of mirrors, and one of the honor guard dies, and Silas doesn't have a reflection, so he can go in and dismantle the trap. And so that's where the confirmation came from. So what do you think he is?
I've always thought he was a vampire from the beginning.
Well, you know what? Fuck you, okay?
I had suspicions about it, and then when we got to chapter 5 and the dance, and he's sitting there and he's like, I can't participate. I'm not alive. I'm not dead.
Yeah, but that would also be an angel.
Angels are alive. They're one of God's creatures. They're alive.
But they're not alive in the way that, okay, whatever.
But it's supernatural. You can kill an angel. You can't kill a vampire unless you stake them. And then
because supernatural is the end-all be-all on vampires and
obviously.
Angels. No. I've only seen 3 episodes of Supernatural. That show is scary. I don't get it. It's scary. Can't do it. There's too many demons in that show. Sorry. Apparently, April has ADHD now, too.
It rubs off. I'm sorry. It's contagious.
Apparently.
The longer y'all listen, the more you're going to get. But no, as soon as, he said that he was not living and not dead, I was like, oh, homeboy's a vampire.
Yeah. No, I really thought until...
And, he talked about how he didn't eat regular food, and, he had to go get other sources of food.
Again, angel. All those things.
But he said he had to eat... He has a specific diet, he said.
So would an angel.
What's the angel's diet? What's an angel?
Manna! Manna from God!
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Pardon me. Okay, now that we're done with Silas. The ghouls are all named after famous politicians. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is a tongue-in-cheek joke by Neil Gaiman to throw shade?
I mean, it absolutely is. And my favorite two were that. Oh my gosh, where are they in my notes? I don't know. Victor Hugo and Harry Truman are cool.
Harry Truman was my favorite.
They keep describing the president and whatever number Harry Truman was. And I was like, what president was this? So I searched for it and I was like, oh, Harry Truman, that's hilarious. So
they eat the undead. Mm-hmm. That they convert living humans into them. Mm-hmm. I thought it was hilarious.
It was very funny.
It was so funny.
I pictured them looking more like Abbott and Costello-y.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I pictured that. But the way that they're drawn in the book, for those of you who are watching at home, let's see. There we go. If you are watching on YouTube, this is how they are drawn. This is pages, let's see, 64, 65, and 66. So there's 64 and 65. Got to get my light going. And then here's 66. So they definitely don't look Abbott and Costello-y, but just like who's on... They were having so many conversations that were almost like who's on first.
Right.
And I was picturing Abbott and Costello.
And, that is such... It's like Shrek. It is written for kids, but there's jokes for adults in there.
100%.
This was intended for the adults reading this book.
Absolutely.
This was so... He was like, you know what? It's going to be really funny. I'm going to throw in random politicians. Right. It's going to really get them.
Well, and it also threw off the timeline of this book for me because I kept thinking this book took place in the past.
It doesn't, though.
No, I mean, they have cell phones. Like, this is taking place in when it was written, which was 2009. Like,
but
this is taking place in modern time.
Were died, like, when did they say?
Oh, forever ago. They were, like, 1700s or 1800s.
Right.
And, you know, side note, I don't understand why he has parents and a guardian. Like, why do you have both?
Because they can't leave the graveyard.
Because they can't leave the graveyard. But then doesn't that just make Silas their parents? But I guess not.
Silas has to still leave to do guard shit.
Well, whatever. He doesn't leave him alone. Whenever he leaves, he brings another guardian. So, like, that's the babysitter. So that makes Silas the parents. But whatever. But yeah, I kept thinking this took place longer ago, and the historical aspect of the characters that are ghouls made me feel like it was longer ago too.
Right.
And it wasn't really until the end of the book when they were talking about him having a cell phone or the internet when he was at school, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is taking place like now. Okay, okay. But you get that old feel to it because all of the characters that live in the graveyard, they're all dead from that time.
And the graveyard's closed. It's not even like
it's not an active graveyard.
It's not a functioning. It's a public park. It has
a nature habitat.
Right. It's a very old headstones. Like the youngest one in there died during the witch trials. Like it was.
Right. And there's a grave that goes all the way back to when before England was really like a country. Like
the nomads. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it. I think Gaiman does a really good job about you are time traveling without time traveling in this book.
Yeah, for sure.
You are definitely in a historical novel without it being a historical novel. It's great.
Yeah. Very cool.
So lots of stories start with orphans, right? But the Graveyard book does this differently. Why do you think the orphan plotline is different in here, and why do you think we use it a lot?
I mean, do you think it's more different? It's different because his parents are murdered. Like, I mean, he's not. They don't.
Do you think it's different? Let me ask you that. Do you think this is different than, say, like Annie, Harry Potter, those kind of things?
It kind of reminds me of Batman.
But instead of having a rich butler, having money and a butler, you have ghost parents.
Yeah, and a vampire guardian. But the reason I say that is because his parents are murdered.
Right.
And Batman, like Bruce Wayne, is there when his parents are murdered, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, so is Bod.
Right.
But besides all the rich and like being, crime fighting guy, like the whole purpose of Batman is that he wants revenge on his parents' murderers, and that's the same thing for Bod. I mean, he never says it outright until the end of the book. I think
Bod just wants answers.
He wants revenge. He doesn't kill them. He doesn't kill them the way that they killed his parents.
Because he doesn't want them haunting the graveyard because it's his home.
That's his home. Exactly. And that's the only reason why he doesn't kill them there. But the reason why he wants to go to school and the reason that he wants to know all these things, he tells Silas, because I want to know all the things so that when I meet them again, I win.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I guess, I hate referencing this, but in some ways it's also like Harry Potter.
Right.
He wants, and this is one of the biggest pet peeves I have about Harry Potter. If they would have just told him all his shit from the beginning, he would have been more prepared to fight Voldemort, right? And, like, that's the same thing with Bod. Bod asks these questions and wants to do these things because he wants to defeat the Jacks of all trades. And ultimately, that's what happens in the end.
Right.
I don't think it's a fresh take on the orphan story. I think the orphan story is done over and over again, but there's a reason why. It's definitely a literary trope.
Why do you think we're drawn to that trope, though?
I mean, we like an underdog. You start at the bottom. You've got no parents. You're alone. A lot of times these orphans are not just finding new families that love them and take care of them. They put
Right.
them in closets under the stairs. So we like an underdog. We like the hero origin story. We do. And if that means that it starts with the murder of the parents, then that's what we do. Interesting. What do you think?
I feel like I've never read a story like this before. It is definitely, you're right though. After hearing you say Batman, I get it. I don't think Bod was after revenge. That's just how I read it. I feel like Bod was more looking for answers, and revenge came with the seek for answers. But I think he wants what everybody wants, to have a life, you know? And that's, I mean, especially now, like post-COVID, that feeling of being trapped, that feeling of being stuck in the same place over and over again and not being able to go be in the world is something that I think everyone on the planet for a while could relate to.
Yeah.
And that is definitely original, I feel like. But I don't know.
I think the original take on it was that it was ghosts raising him.
Which
and that he was raised in actually a loving environment, because usually these stories don't go that way.
True.
That's my take on it.
Okay.
But I love that I convinced you to my side.
I'm not saying you convinced me. I still think it's original, but I get the Batman reference now that you've explained it.
Well, I'll take it.
So, out of all the characters we've met in the graveyard, who's your favorite?
I'm torn. Can I have 3 favorites?
Sure. I'll give you a top 3.
So in no particular order, our witch. Yes. I loved her very much. Elizabeth. Silas, because he's a good dude, even though he's a vampire.
He could have ate the kid and he didn't. So
right. He had his priorities. Well, and we know that what he tells Bod is like he used to be a monster, but he realized he didn't have to be that. So it's very Edward Cullen. But the other one, his mom, I really loved.
Yes,
I loved how much she loved him.
I love his family so much. His parents,
his mom loved him like she was his mom. Like
in that their goodbye. Let me.
I'm trying to find where it happens, because I love the goodbye between the two of them. Go ahead. I'll find it.
Their goodbye is so beautiful.
Oh yeah, and she sings to him.
Yep.
Originally, she wasn't there. She wasn't there to say goodbye. Like she wasn't going to be able to.
Is where I'm at. If I
me too. Me too. She wasn't going to say goodbye, and then on 305 he says hello, mother, because he sees her, and she sings to him, and she tells him, she just asks him, you know what you're going to do now, which I feel like is like the most mom thing that you can do. Like your kid is all grown up, and you're like, okay, what are you going to do with your life then? And then she sings to him, and part of it is leave no path untaken.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. That's what all you can wish for your kids, right?
And what great symbolism at the end for the ghosts to start disappearing. What a great symbolism of the loss of childhood. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And the last one to disappear is his mom.
His mom, right? Yeah. Like, and because as we get older, that sense of whimsy, that sense of magic slowly dissipates. And Bod slowly leaving and saying goodbye to everybody in the graveyard and just then, like, and everybody slowly disappearing. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful way to use the symbolism of adulthood.
Yeah. Side note, I didn't realize that he could like put his head into graves until at the end when he tried to do that and like he hits his head. I knew he could go in.
With the poet, what was his name?
I knew he could go in and out of all the buildings, but I didn't realize that he could like actually go into the graves too. So that was kind of surprising.
I liked that character too.
But who would you say was your favorite of the
I like Elizabeth. What is her name? The one that came to substitute for
Miss
Silas.
Lepescu.
I like her.
Miss Lepescu.
Alonzo at the end that always had the stories and the tales of the world. Like, Alonzo was hilarious. He's like, I can't tell any more stories, but since you're twisting my arm, I'll tell you more.
He kind of reminded me, oh my gosh, Molly, what did you do to me? He kind of reminded me of the professor in Harry Potter who's like a real blowhard.
Gilderoy Lockhart.
No, not that one. Yes, him, but the one that like is Slytherin, and he like befriends all of the
Slughorn.
Thank you, that one. He reminds me.
Yeah.
And I hate that I have Harry Potter references, and I blame you for this.
I love you.
Yeah, sure. But no, I thought he was really funny too. What was I going to say? There were so many characters to keep track of that I think the reason that I'm drawn to those 3 characters was because they were the ones that were mentioned so much. But I just remembered what I was going to tell you. It was very sad when Miss Lepescu died, and I
was so sad. And I feel like they glossed over it real fast.
They definitely did. It was like, did she die?
A much bigger, heartbreaking ending because she saved his ass.
Well, maybe she'll come back as Miss Lepescu the White, and then it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
For our friends that don't understand that reference, that was a Lord of the Rings
Lord of the Rings.
So, this was a movie. I don't know if you saw the...
No! Wait, I thought that the movie got canceled.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
So there was a movie that was planned, and the movie got canceled, which I will share that Neil Gaiman talks about in this article about how he was really excited to work with Pixar and what they did for Coraline, and... You know, long story short, the ducks just weren't lining up, right?
Yeah.
Just things weren't lining up.
In a lot of ways, I don't think this, even as a stop motion film, could be done justice. Like, I
honestly, if we're doing this now, I want live action.
I don't think that would help either. They would CGI the hell out of it, and it just would be bad. I just feel like you can't get the humor of the ghosts that way, and you can't get the... I don't know. I don't think a movie...
They nailed Good Omens. When I heard Good Omens was being made into a book, I literally threw a tantrum. Not turned into a book, turned into a show. I was so mad. And then I saw who was signed on, and I go, if they make me hate David Tennant over this...
No one's going to make you hate David Tennant. He's David Tennant.
But...
He's David Tennant. But
I think keeping Gaiman attached to it as whatever it becomes would be amazing.
But what they did with Good Omens, you're talking about angels and demons, and they can be very much, you don't need to CGI that. They're just angels and demons. And the part that they CGI'd was like the world ending. You would like literally have to CGI this whole thing.
Right.
The whole thing.
I mean,
or it would have to be stop motion. I just don't think it would have been.
We saw what happened to Cats.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had no desire to ever see that. They may have been able to get away with it doing a Pixar film that wasn't stop motion because like they were able to do like ghost stuff with Coco.
Right.
So that might work. I just don't think stop motion is it. Like that's not it for me.
I don't know. I hope it gets a second chance. I like Gaiman. I like his work. I like when he's attached as a producer. It makes me happy.
I mean, if anything is going to give it a second chance is that he's with Good Omens getting a second season, like the popularity of that. I'm not saying Neil Gaiman isn't popular in and of himself, but like whenever an author is hot again, then they want to do more of their movies. So that's what happened with John Green. So they made The Fault in Our Stars, and then it was like, oh, what other things does he have? So they made Paper Towns, but that's like my least favorite of his books. And then they made the Hulu series for Looking for Alaska, even though that one had been purchased by a production company like years before Fault in Our Stars.
Did they buy it from it?
I don't know how it all fell out. Like, one of the videos that I linked on the one we did for Looking for Alaska explains how it all happened. I just can't remember the logistics, but
I can't either.
Like it had been purchased like very years before The Fault in Our Stars.
Gotcha.
But again, the author was hot, so then it's like, okay, what else can we push out by him? And I feel like that's the same thing with Neil Gaiman. Like that, Good Omens might push The Graveyard Book to getting made. I don't know. But I just don't think you're going to be able to do it justice.
Fingers crossed. What's it? Okay, that's the end of my notes. Oh, minus the fact that it was banned, but we talked about that. Mm-hmm. The audacity of banning this book.
I just wanted to say I really like that when the book ends and Bod is leaving, that Silas is also leaving.
Right,
that like his work here is done too. And they defeated the Jacks of all trades, which is a big deal, which is essentially, I think, what the Honor Guard was doing.
Right.
And the reason they were protecting Bod was because he was the chosen one who would defeat them.
Right.
But I think it was really cool that, like, that wasn't his home. He had been away from his home for a very long time and had chosen to stay with Bod. Bod was 15 at the end of the book. So he had chosen to stay with Bod, and then he left as well. Like, the graveyard is now back to just being the graveyard.
Well, and that whole thing at the end, Bod goes, "Call me if you need me."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "I don't think I'm," Silas is like, "I don't think I'm going to need you, kid."
Yeah.
But he tells him, "Okay, just to be on the safe side."
And you know what? Something just occurred to me right now. Because of the way that Bod got in the graveyard was that his family lived next to it, and he had crawled out of his crib and crawled out of his house and then up the hill into the graveyard, which, by the way, who's watching your baby? Like, why would that ever happen? But I guess you're being murdered, so I guess that's what happens.
It's acceptable.
It's acceptable if you're being murdered.
Other than that, get your shit together.
Right. But, like, Silas was probably already at the graveyard because he was already watching Bod.
Right.
Like, if the Jacks knew that he existed, then the Honor Guard would have known as well.
Known he was there.
And that's why he was the groundskeeper at the graveyard.
And I feel like the job of the Honor Guard isn't ever done. I think they're always going to have an eye on Bod, even if it's more from a distance now. I think they're always going to be there in the shadows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like...
That was what Silas's job was from the beginning, right? To be in the shadows.
Well, I mean, it's like the Jedi. They may have defeated one bad guy, but they've got to watch out for the next generation.
I really think that we're always going to have more Jacks. I think more Jacks are always going to pop up.
Well, they've killed all of them, but that doesn't mean that the Jacks can't be reborn. I mean, but right now they're all murdered.
Right.
They're all dead. So anyway, but I actually thank you for having me read this one. This has been my favorite book of the 4.
Shut up!
I know. And I'm almost finished with The Bone Garden. I'm doing that one as an audiobook, and I'm about 4 hours from the end of it. And I can say that I think even after I finish that one, that this is going to be my favorite from this month. I did enjoy it.
Now, The Bone Garden is the reason I got into audiobooks. So,
I know, you told me that. So I can't wait to discuss that with you, because I am not reading that one as a physical book at all. That one is going to be completely audio. So,
but that's, next week, Tash Grisham, The Bone Gardens. This is from 2005, I want to say. She had already started the Rizzoli and Isles series. So... this was just like a little sub book because Dr. Isles is in this.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Dr.
Isles is in this, which we'll get into next week.
Yeah. But I definitely like this one. And I just want to say, everybody, please continue to follow us on social media. We are on TikTok now.
Don't forget to leave a rate and review us. It really helps. It boosts the algorithm. It really makes it really, really does. You don't think it does, but it will put us on the charts.
Right. We're on the charts in 2 countries, but not here yet.
But we're there. We're so close.
We are very close. So rate us.
Because we love you guys. And we want everybody to love us.
We're thankful. We've almost hit 1,000 streams, which is great.
I know.
Yeah, that's really great.
And this is only our 15th episode, so I'm pretty proud of us. We've worked really hard.
And for those of you that don't know how the podcasting world works, which we didn't either until a few months ago.
Seriously, we just jumped in cold water.
Yeah, we were like, hey, let's do that.
We did zero research. We're stupid.
When you're not famous or already have a sort of following, it is really hard to make it into the charts. So I'm proud of us, Molly.
I am.
And I'm really thankful for all of our listeners.
I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for them.
Yay. And
we're going to keep doing this, even if you don't like us.
Yeah.
Because it's fun for us.
But if you do like us, please tell people that you like us.
You know what? Leave us a rating that you don't like us either. Ratings are ratings right now.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Potato, tomato, guys.
Oh, man, Molly. All right, so I think that's it.
Till next week, gang, which is the end of spooky season.
Mm-hmm.
With Bone Gardens.
And then we will read...
There's no S there. I'm from upstate New York. I add extra S's. I'm apologizing.
Hey, we do that in Ohio, too. Then the week after that, we will start going back and forth between who's hosting, and I'll be the first one to host, and we'll be reading Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing.
I'm really excited to read it because Hank and I think the exact same way.
Oh my, which is scary. So
He's
if you are
scientifically based,
if you are following us on social media, we do post what upcoming books are happening. We do have some people who are reading along. I realize that we're reading a book a week, and that might not be your pace. It's not our pace either. Spoilers.
We are so far ahead.
We film these when we have time, and we finish books when we have time, and so we're ahead of where we expect. Where we expected to be.
We're also ahead because we're covered books that we've read before. So
yeah. Some
helps.
of them are. So rate us. Molly, I love you.
I love you. We're at an hour and 10. We're out of here, gang.
We're over. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April and not those of anyone else. Today's book was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Your book besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Halloween Pumpkin by purpletechplanet.com. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.